Picture this. You are on a multi-million-dollar super yacht right in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean.
Sounds pretty incredible, honestly.
Right. I mean, it's the dream. So you open your laptop to close this massive career-defining deal, and suddenly your Zoom call just completely freezes.
Oh, man. The dreaded blocky video mess.
Exactly. The video turns into blocks, the audio drops out, and you are just entirely disconnected from the world.
Yeah, that's a nightmare.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder, humanity can routinely land reusable rockets on autonomous drone ships, but getting a stable internet connection out on the ocean, it still requires like an absolute engineering miracle.
It really does.
So, okay, let's unpack this. Welcome to the deep dive.
What's fascinating here is that it's just the ultimate juxtaposition. We have this modern fantasy of working seamlessly from a sun deck miles from shore.
Oh, absolutely.
But the reality of marine technology is this brutal, constant fight against physics. Today, we're analyzing a really comprehensive guide from Marine Data Solutions.
Right. The one authored by the marine network architect Michael Robilio.
Yes, exactly. It's all about the maritime version of Starlink. And I got to tell you, it shatters a lot of assumptions about how wireless networking actually functions outside the comfort of your living room.
Yeah, and the mission for this deep dive is to explore the staggering network architecture and the physical engineering required to keep these vessels connected on the high seas. Because reading through this source material, the very first thing that struck me wasn't about software or data speeds at all.
Yeah.
No, it was the sheer hostility of the physical environment. Like, most of us think of satellite internet as just a signal issue, right? You point a dish at the sky, you connect to space, and boom, you stream your movie.
Right, but there is this total underestimation of the ocean. A standard Starlink kit, the kind someone might use at a rural cabin or an RV park, that's designed for a relatively static, benign environment.
Like sitting still.
Exactly. But Robilio's guide highlights these severe environmental threats that just destroy consumer electronics. Like, let's look at continuous motion.
Right, because a boat is never just sitting there.
Never. A vessel at sea is never stationary. It pitches up and down, it rolls side to side, yaws off its axis, and simultaneously, it's enduring this relentless high-frequency vibration from massive marine diesel engines running constantly, just decks below.
It's like trying to build a house of cards on a roller coaster.
That is a perfect analogy.
And that continuous vibration alone is a nightmare. I mean, it can literally shake standard solder joints apart on internal circuit boards over time.
It just vibrates them to death.
Yeah, but the text specifically points out an even more insidious threat, which is severe salt exposure.
Oh, salt water.
Yeah, we casually call salt water like kryptonite for electronics, but mechanically it's because salt water is highly conductive.
Right, it's the minerals in it.
Exactly. So when ocean spray hits a normal consumer-grade router housing, the water evaporates and leaves these microscopic salt crystals behind.
And those just sit there on the board.
Yeah, and then they pull moisture from the humid ocean air, creating this literal conductive sludge that bridges pathways on the circuit board, causing microscopic short circuits. It literally eats the technology from the inside out.
Which is insane. So to combat that, the marine environment really dictates the technology. You cannot just, slap a plastic dish to a radar arch with some zip ties.
No, definitely not.
The text really emphasizes that Starlink Maritime requires secure marine mounting. We are talking about custom-machined brackets bolted directly into the vessel's superstructure.
Wow, just to keep it on the boat.
Yes, to withstand gale force winds and the sheer kinetic impact of crashing waves. The hardware itself has to be fundamentally reinvented with advanced weather sealing and heat dissipation designed specifically for offshore abuse.
While reading, I was trying to picture the mechanical challenge of the signal itself, just completely independent of the salt in the water.
The tracking aspect.
Yeah, because a standard Starlink dish doesn't move mechanically to track satellites. It uses a phased array antenna to electronically steer an invisible beam at a low Earth orbit satellite that's zipping by in space.
Right, it's a very narrow, focused connection.
It is. It's like trying to keep a laser pointer perfectly focused on a passing airplane. Now imagine trying to hold that laser pointer steady while standing on a mechanical bowl.
Honestly, it's a miracle it works at all.
That is exactly what the dish is experiencing on the ocean.
And, That tracking nightmare brings up a really critical piece of historical context. For decades, the maritime industry relied on VS.
Very small aperture terminal systems, right?
Right, exactly. And these use massive, mechanically stabilized domes pointing at satellites in geostationary orbit.
Which are way further out.
Way further out, sitting 22,000 miles out in space. So because the signal had to travel 44,000 miles round trip, it created massive latency, or lag.
So you're talking on the phone and there's that awful 2-second delay.
Yes, exactly. The revolutionary aspect of Starlink is that its satellites are in low Earth orbit, only about 300 miles up.
Which is practically right next door compared to VS.
It is, and that solves the lag problem, giving you fiber-like speeds. But because those satellites are so close, they are moving incredibly fast across the sky relative to the boat.
Which means the tracking has to be absolutely flawless.
Spot on.
So if standard plastic housings shatter or corrode under the ocean pressure, and standard antennas can't track fast-moving satellites while the boat is pitching and rolling, well, the engineers basically had to completely bifurcate the hardware.
They did.
Because the guide lays out 2 main paths a boat owner can take, and the technical divide between them is pretty stark.
Yeah, so the source introduces the Starlink Performance Kit for boats as the preferred hardware for permanent vessel installation and high-speed open water connectivity.
Okay, the permanent one.
Right. And the internal engineering on the performance dish is vastly different. It has a wider field of view, meaning it can, see more of the sky simultaneously.
Why is that important?
Well, it's vital when a boat is rolling severely or when the vessel's own mast temporarily blocks a portion of the sky. It needs a wider lens, essentially.
Gotcha. And the guide contrasts that heavily with what they call Starlink Roam. There's this fantastic summary in the text. It says, Roam is flexible, maritime is purpose-built.
I think we really need to define those buyer profiles clearly because the text makes a very sharp distinction here. Starlink Roam is lightweight. It's designed for mobility, casual travel, maybe coastal hopping, or just sitting quietly at a marina.
So like a weekend warrior kind of deal.
Exactly. If you want the ability to pack up the dish and throw it in your RV during the off-season, Roam serves that exact purpose.
Okay, but I'm genuinely struggling with this one part. Say I'm a casual user, but I have a decent-sized offshore fishing boat. Why wouldn't I just buy the much cheaper Roam kit and permanently glue it to the roof?
I mean, a lot of people try that.
Right. Like, why spend the massive premium on the performance kit if they both literally connect to the exact same Starlink satellites?
It really comes down to thermal management, power delivery, and priority data.
Priority data.
Yeah, so the performance kit is engineered to draw significantly more power. It can melt snow, it can push a stronger signal through heavy rain fade, and maintain a connection in extreme latitudes.
Okay, that makes sense for the hardware.
But furthermore, the maritime version is built around a specific class of priority data. So if an offshore commercial vessel or a super yacht regularly runs into deep international waters, the regular Roam plan might actively deprioritize their traffic.
Oh, wow.
Or it might simply cease coverage entirely outside territorial waters.
So they just cut you off?
Yeah. The text stresses that for captains and fleet managers who require absolute reliability, the permanent performance setup is literally the only safe recommendation.
I see. So it's really a matter of guaranteed uptime versus just casual convenience. You aren't just paying for a tougher plastic shell. You are paying for the thermal engineering and the network priority that keeps the connection alive when a storm rolls in.
Exactly. And this transition from the exterior hardware to the interior network is where the architecture becomes truly complex. Because surviving the ocean and connecting to space, that's only half the battle.
Yeah, this is where it gets really interesting to me. You bolt this massive, rugged performance terminal to the mast. It miraculously survives a hurricane, and it catches the satellite beam perfectly.
Job done.
You'd think.
Right.
But that external link is 100% useless if the local network inside the hull of the boat can't distribute it.
Which is harder than it sounds.
Way harder. The guide details the staggering demands of a modern yacht ecosystem. You have guests streaming 4K movies in multiple cabins. The captain is downloading massive multi-gigabyte weather files for navigation.
Crucial stuff.
Right. And the crews is on WhatsApp doing video calls with their families. Plus, the vessel's own telemetry system is constantly pinging engine monitoring data back to shore.
So distributing all that bandwidth inside a vessel introduces an entirely new physical barrier.
The boat itself.
Yes, the boats themselves. Especially super yachts and commercial ships. They're constructed of steel, aluminum thick carbon fiber.
Which are basically signal blockers.
Exactly. These materials effectively act as Faraday cages, completely blocking wireless signals from passing through bulkheads. You cannot just run an Ethernet cable from the Starlink dish into a standard, Best Buy Wi-Fi router in the main salon and expect the signal to reach the engine room or the lower decks.
It'll just hit the metal wall and die.
Exactly.
So the physical ecosystem on board the vessel requires its own dedicated engineering. The text details a really robust required network. We're talking shielded cabling running through fire-rated penetrations in the ship's bulkheads and strategically placed enterprise-grade Wi-Fi access points in literally every single compartment.
It's a massive network. And beyond just physical distribution, there is the issue of multi-source bonding.
Right, let's talk about that.
A single satellite connection, even an incredible low Earth orbit one like Starlink, can still be obstructed by the boat's own radar mast as the vessel turns.
Oh, because the boat gets in its own way.
Exactly. Or the signal gets degraded by heavy atmospheric rain. So the guide specifically highlights the necessity of the MDS splendor for this environment.
Okay, I really want to focus on this MDS splendor. Because my initial thought when I read that was, oh, this is just an automatic failover switch. Like if the Starlink dish goes down, it just clicks over to a 5G cellular connection.
That's what most people assume.
Yeah. But the guide describes it as multi-source bonding, which sounds way more complicated.
It is vastly more sophisticated than a simple failover switch. If you rely on a failover, your Zoom call drops. The system takes 10 seconds to realize the connection is dead, switches to a backup, and then you have to literally dial back into your meeting.
Which is incredibly annoying.
Right.
Yeah.
But packet-level bonding, which the MDS Blender performs, it takes all available internet sources, maybe 2 separate Starlink dishes, a legacy VSAT dish, and a near-shore 5G cellular antenna.
All of them at once.
All of them at once. And it aggregates them into one massive pipeline.
So it's constantly using all available roads at the exact same time. It chops your video call data into tiny packets, sends some pieces up through the satellite in space, sends other pieces horizontally to a cell tower on the coast, and seamlessly stitches them all back together at the final destination.
That is exactly the mechanism. So if the Starlink connection stutters for 3 seconds because a mast blocked the dish, the blender instantly shifts those data packets over the 5G connection without missing a single frame of your video call.
That's incredible.
The user experience remains completely flawless, even when individual networks are failing in the background.
That perfectly explains why the text notes that many yachts deliberately keep their older, incredibly expensive VSAT systems or OneWeb satellite systems active even after they install Starlink.
Oh, absolutely.
They are layering completely different satellite constellations on top of each other. So if a localized weather event degrades the low Earth orbit signals, the geostationary VSAT is still punching through.
Redundancy is everything at sea. But once all those disparate sources are bonded together, the network architect must then divide that massive pipe back up inside the boat.
Right, because you have different users.
Exactly. The guide emphasizes traffic management, which is commonly known as quality of service. The internal network has to separate traffic into distinct, managed virtual networks for guests, crew, and operations.
Because if a crew member decides to download a massive 100-gigabyte video game update in their quarters,
which happens,
you absolutely cannot allow that to throttle the captain's ability to pull real-time radar data to navigate around a squall. The traffic management just has to ruthlessly prioritize the vessel's operational data, then the high-paying guests, and finally the crew.
It is a phenomenal amount of hidden infrastructure. The terminal provides the raw link to the sky, sure, but the onboard routing, the packet-level bonding, and the traffic management, those are what determine how reliable the internet actually feels to the person sitting at the desk.
Which naturally requires us to look at the economics of this entire operation.
Yes, let's talk about the money.
Let's talk about a hypothetical yacht owner. They buy the absolute best Starlink Performance Kit, they slap it on the highest point of the boat, but they completely ignore the hidden infrastructure we just discussed. Why does their internet still drop constantly?
Because they treated a marine network like a consumer electronics purchase.
They just bought it and plugged it in.
Exactly. The source provides a very clear breakdown of the cost categories, and it proves that the hardware is really only a fraction of the investment.
Just the tip of the iceberg.
Right. The invisible infrastructure is where systems succeed or fail. Consider just the installation phase, specifically the cabling. On a massive vessel, a cable run from the mast all the way down to the server rack might be 150 to 200 feet long.
That's a huge distance for a data cable.
It is. And over that distance, you experience voltage drop. The Starlink Performance dish requires significant wattage to operate its heaters and powerful antenna.
So if you use cheap, unshielded consumer cable over a 200-foot run, the dish isn't getting enough power to actually function when the weather turns cold or the signal degrades.
Exactly. Furthermore, if the marine mounts aren't sealed perfectly, or if UV exposure cracks the outer jacket of an improper cable, capillary action will actually draw seawater down the inside of the cable sheath straight into the multi-thousand-dollar routing equipment in the server room and fry the entire system.
Oh my God. The seawater travels inside the cable.
Like a straw.
That is terrifying. You know, the Marine Data Solutions Guide has a hyper-specific detail about this that I found incredibly telling. The text notes that if a vessel happens to be located in South Florida, which is conveniently near Safe Harbor, Lauderdale Marine Center, where MDS actually operates, the company will apply 10% of your equipment price directly toward professional installation.
And that's not just a friendly discount. They are heavily incentivizing professional installation because they understand the causality of failure in marine tech.
They know it's going to break if you do it yourself.
Exactly. If a client attempts to install enterprise-grade networking themselves or uses an unqualified boatyard, water ingress or voltage drops will almost certainly cause the system to fail. And then the client will blame the Starlink hardware or the MDS blender when the root cause was just a poorly crimped Ethernet connector exposed to sea spray.
It fundamentally changes how you have to view the price tag. The airtime plan controls your priority access to the satellites. The hardware dictates your physical survival against the elements, but the installation guarantees the uptime.
Perfectly said.
The guide states this beautifully. It says, the lowest price option is not always the best value. For yachts, poor uptime and guest frustration can cost more than choosing the right system from the start.
That is the core economic philosophy of maritime connectivity. Think about it. If a vessel is chartered for $100,000 a week and a high net worth individual cannot conduct their business because the network dropped due to a cheap cable,
they're going to be furious.
They are. The cost of that lost charter or the reputational damage to the yacht itself instantly dwarfs whatever money the owner thought they saved by skipping the enterprise-grade network equipment.
Wow. So we have covered an immense amount of ground today.
We really have.
We started by looking at the microscopic destruction caused by salt water and relentless vibration, fundamentally changing why regular electronics just fail at sea.
Right.
And we explored the mechanical challenge of phased array antennas trying to track fast-moving, low Earth orbit satellites while violently pitching on ocean waves.
And then we moved past the exterior hardware to the internal ecosystem. We dissected how an MDS blender uses packet-level bonding to stitch multiple satellite and cellular networks together into an unbreakable stream.
Yeah, that was fascinating.
And finally, we analyzed the hidden costs, recognizing that power delivery, weather sealing, and professional installation are the true gatekeepers of internet reliability.
So what does this all mean for you, our listener? Well, the next time you are sitting in your living room, totally insulated from the weather, and you feel a flash of annoyance because your home Wi-Fi takes 2 seconds to buffer a video, I want you to remember this deep dive.
Just take a breath.
Yeah. Think about the sheer mechanical engineering, the thermal management, the bonded routing, and the architectural planning required to keep a super yacht seamlessly connected while pounding through gale force winds in the middle of the Atlantic. It certainly puts our minor buffering issues into perspective.
It absolutely does. But, if we connect this incredible technological leap to the bigger picture, it forces us to confront a deeper, almost philosophical implication.
How so?
Well, for the entirety of human history, the open ocean has represented the ultimate physical and communicative barrier. When you left the shore, you left society behind.
You were totally unreachable. The ocean was the great disconnect.
Exactly. But if purpose-built low Earth orbit satellite networks, combined with advanced packet-level bonding, are now robust enough to bring priority fiber-speed internet to the absolute most isolated, volatile environments on Earth.
We've basically conquered the final frontier of connectivity.
We have, which raises a really profound question. If there are literally no dead zones left on the planet, where do we go when we actually want to disconnect? What happens to the very human concept of being off the grid?
Wow. That is a staggering thought to leave on. The fantasy of seamlessly working from a yacht is now a reality, thanks to an invisible web of engineering. But the true escape that the ocean used to provide, that might be gone forever.
It's something to think about.
Next time you picture yourself on that aft deck, cold drink in hand, consider the technological marvel keeping you tethered to the rest of the world. Thanks for exploring the depths of marine networking with us on this deep dive.